Okay, yapping is so in right now. Everybody's talking about it. So let's talk about yapping, but let's talk about yapping on a podcast, guys, because here's the thing. If you're going to yap, let podcasting be the place where you can actually show up and yap because there's longevity on your podcast. Imagine you showing up every day or most days on social media to yap away, only to having to keep yapping away because your content does not have this home base where it lives forever, right? Because as you know, podcast your reels, they have a lifetime, right? So let's say you create a reel, TikTok, a short, whatever, and it goes viral. That same piece of content can keep bringing you visibility for months to come. But a podcast can bring you visibility for years to come. And I'm proof of that because I have, I don't know, close to 500 episodes. And if I'm being honest, like I've always yapped on my podcast. Like before I knew what yapping was, that it was a thing, that's what I've been doing. I've been yapping. And my business has grown consistently year over year because one, I'm very honest, like yapping, what is yapping? Yapping is you showing up and talking and being able to convey your ideas to people. And the underlying layer of yapping is that you get to do it in a very unfiltered way. You're not overthinking it. Like you might have some talking points, but you're just talking, guys. Like you're just talking. Like if I was talking to you, like if you were in front of me right now in person, this is how I would be talking to you. And that's what yapping is, right? So when you look back at me, like just using me as an example, because that is the most solid example that I have for you, like the most solid case study that I have is my own because I walk the walk and I talk the talk. It's this, right? I combined yapping with uh, podcasting and SEO. And because I have this whole ecosystem, it just works. Like my business grows. So even when I take a break from my podcast because I'm doing this crazy experiment, my podcast grows because I have built this very solid base and people enjoy my content because it's different. Okay. Now I'm going to pause here for a second. I want to go on a little tangent and say this. Stop scripting your podcast because it's breaking the flow of your show. I've made a few other episodes on scripting, and I have a guide that I sell on scripting. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I need to script, I have a guide on how to script. Okay, but the thing that I always come back to is that very few people know how to script well. Okay, they can write a script, but then when it comes to like reading it, it sounds very monotone. It doesn't have any emotion to it. Like there's no human feel. Like the Holy Spirit cannot come in and do what the Holy Spirit does, cannot take over, because you're reading a script. You're like, I'm gonna be perfect right now. I'm just gonna read the script. It does not work, guys. Okay. So, like I said, very few people know how to script. It is an art, and very few people can do it. So learn to surrender, learn to let go, learn how to, like, the best advice that I have for you, which I will leave an episode linked for you, is to use bullet points and have these ideas like that you're thinking about, but don't sit here and just follow a script because that's just gonna break up the flow. That's not gonna help you grow. So I'll leave that episode linked for you in the show notes. Now going back to yapping. If you're gonna yap, I'm here for it. Yap. I'm a big believer of yapping because that's how I grew my business. Yapping, okay? But do it on a platform where you're actually gonna get rewarded for your hard work. And like, I'm not sitting here bashing social media. I have clients who have really great success with social media, and I think social media is great, right? But I think what's happening is that we are thinking that in order for us to grow our podcast, we need to be on social media and we need to yap because that is the latest trend. And we're forgetting that the podcast is the home base. The podcast is the main thing, and we grow the podcast by focusing on the podcast. And social media, even if you recycle your content into social media, whatever you're doing on social media is ultimately growing your social media. And very few people from your social media efforts are going to convert into podcast listeners. Because if I am on Instagram, right? If I am on Instagram and I'm scrolling and I want a hit of inspiration of whatever, like, right? Like I'm numbing out or whatever, right? Like why else do we go on social media if not to numb out or stalk? Let's just be honest, right? If I am on social media for that purpose and I see the little piece of content, right? In order for me to be like, oh my gosh, let me go listen to a 10, 15, 20, 30-minute podcast episode because this like 30-minute reel blew my mind. It's very low. Okay. Like that's why the conversion is low. And it happens to me like just observe how you are. If you are on social media, just observe how you consume content, the people that you whose content you consume on social media versus how you consume them in like any type of long form content, whether that's a podcast or it is YouTube, right? It's going to be very different. And I guarantee you that like 90% of the time, people whose podcasts you watch their podcasts. But when it comes to like the short form content and things like that, you don't consume as much. One, because Instagram is not showing it to you. And two, it's because you know that there's a depth that long form content gives you that short form content doesn't. So that is how Instagram like just naturally filters away creators whose podcasts you listen to or YouTube video you listen to, but they're not really showing you their reels and whatnot. Now, think about, the people who are at the top of your feed, right? Those are the people that are notoriously only on social media. So because you really only consume their content on social media and you enjoy it, Instagram is always showing it to you. So you also have to think about that. Like you also have to think about the human behavior and how that happens. Because again, when you are more likely to engage with somebody who has long form content and you're listening, you're consuming their content in this long form medium, you don't have the need as much to consume the short form because all of whatever they could say in their short form content is already being covered in their long form content. So something for you to keep in mind. So yap away. I'm a big fan of yapping, but yap in your podcast. And if you're going to yap on social media, just know that if you're going to yap on social media to grow your podcast, the conversion rate is going to be super low, but you are going to grow your social media, right? So it's still a win for you, but you just need to keep your goals in mind, right? And also, you need to understand a thing. Do you have the time for this strategy, right? Like this idea that you're going to grow your podcast because of social media is wrong. Like that's not what you became a business owner for. You became a business owner for flexibility and all so you can become a slave to social media, right? So yap smart and like make sure that you're keeping it somewhere because you're giving out gold. And like honestly, like you see this in real life. I know that you are watching people right now who are yapping and they're putting out like gold on social media. But one, it's just like really hard for you to consume thought provoking or just really good information on social media, right? Like the medium is just not conducive. And if I know anything about my listeners, is that you, my listener, you have something important to say that social media just cannot embrace and encompass. There is a time and a place for social media in your business journey, more than likely, uh, but it's not for you to put your most thought provoking ideas on. Okay, so yap on a podcast and be the thought leader that you are, and the podcast is going to be the fastest way for you to make that happen.